Ukrainian military analyst Vasyl Pekhnio believes that Russia will fail to reach the administrative borders of Donetsk and Luhansk regions by January the 20th, 2025. He shared his opinions with Espreso TV. Indeed, it would be logical for the Russians to attempt to reach the administrative borders of Donetsk and Luhansk regions by January the 20th, specifically to capture Chasiv Yar, Toretsk, Velyka Novosilka, and Kurakhove, directing all efforts toward Pokrovsk and trying to seize the city before Trump's inauguration. However, this scenario is entirely unrealistic. It's important to understand that Chasiv Yar, Toretsk and Velyka Novosilka serve as flanks for Pokrovsk. For the Russians, these are auxiliary directions for capturing Pokrovsk. Taking them by January the 20th, in my opinion, is simply impossible. Moreover, in recent days, Ukrainian units have conducted successful assault operations against the Russians in Chasiv Yar. A similar situation is observed south of Ivanivske towards Klishchiivka, explained Pekhnio. The analyst noted that the situation in the Toretsk direction, particularly in Chasiv Yar, remains highly dynamic. However, breaking the resistance of the Ukrainian defense forces in the near future is unlikely for Russian troops. In Toretsk, countermeasures by Ukrainian forces were also observed, although later there were reports of some Russian advances. Thus, the situation in these two settlements is indeed very dynamic. However, the likelihood of the Russians breaking the Ukrainian defense forces' resistance on these fronts is highly doubtful. As for the southern flank near Pokrovsk, Kurakhove and Velyka Novosilka, the likelihood of the Russians capturing these settlements by January the 20th is quite significant. He added, recently, Russian Defense Minister Andrei Belousov said during a defense ministry meeting on December the 16th that Moscow aims to seize the entirety of Ukraine's Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, and Zaporizhia oblasts in 2025. Speaking at a defense ministry meeting, Belousov reiterated Russia's commitment to achieving what he described as the goals announced by President Vladimir Putin in June. In 2025, Moscow plans to achieve victory in the war. He added, on June the 14th, Putin stated that Russia would agree to a ceasefire and peace talks only if Ukraine withdraws from the 4 Ukrainian oblasts and formally abandons its aspirations to join NATO.
A tightly scripted meeting of the Russia-dominated economic alliance of several ex-Soviet nations briefly went awry Thursday when two leaders engaged in bickering during a live broadcast of the event. Russian President Vladimir Putin and other heads of states attended the meeting of the Eurasian Economic Union, which includes Russia, Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan. Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan, who has increasingly sought to phase down his country's ties with Moscow and forge closer relations with the West, joined the meeting via video link after cancelling his trip following a positive test for COVID-19. The carefully choreographed session at a resort near St. Petersburg veered off script when Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko, whose country was taking the rotating chairmanship in the economic grouping from Armenia, urged Pashinyan to visit Belarus for the union's next meeting. Pashinyan responded that he plans to attend the Belarus meeting via video call, after which Lukashenko pressed for an explanation and even offered to send a plane to fly the Armenian delegation to the Belarusian capital. Pashinyan then pointed to his earlier decision to freeze high-level visits to Belarus over Lukashenko's support for Armenia's rival, Azerbaijan. "I don't think this is the right format for discussing these issues," Pashinyan added. But Lukashenko kept arguing and Pashinyan snapped back. Putin, who sat next to Lukashenko, and other leaders watched the altercation in stony silence. The Eurasian Economic Union was formed a decade ago to encourage stronger business ties and facilitate trade between its members, but it has been marred by economic and other disputes between members.
Как это предусмотрено уставными документами. Примерно 29 мая будущего года. Ориентировочный.
Хочу уточнить, что вот мы не возражаем против проведения заседания Высшего экономического совета ЕС в Минске, но я хочу заранее сказать, что наша делегация примет участие заседание в режиме видеоконференции. Спасибо.
А что за проблема?
перейти.
Что у вас за проблема? Далеко до Минска или некому вас подвезти? Ну, мы организуем доставку вашей делегации, если нужно.
Александр Григорьевич, я по этому поводу выступил с публичным заявлением, и это заявление остается в силе. Я не думаю, что это правильный формат, чтобы обсудить эти вопросы. Просто вы сказали, затронули вопрос, я должен был сразу среагировать, что не было никаких недопониманий.
Ну, мы рассмотрим ваше заявление.
А что тут рассмотреть? Вы не можете рассмотреть мое заявление, потому что мое заявление это не подлежит к рассмотрению.
Да, мы это только его... Мы рассмотрим, может, телевизора не будет, чтобы вы дистанционно выступали.
Нет проблем. Предлагаю перейти к процедуре подписания. Я понимаю, что, может, у вас появились еще и проблемы с телевизорами. Я понимаю, отношусь к этому.